Hi, I'm Josh, and this is Cars and Joshy.
Welcome to Cars and Joshy. Today I'm working on pulling out the electronic power steering rack and pinion out of a 2011 Ford Flex. First thing I did was raise up the vehicle on the quick jack, and then I pulled the tires off. Went ahead and pulled off the outer tie rod ends. Now I'm going to work on taking the strut bar off of there, or the sway bar. So it's a 21 right here, but it's got like this piece on here that's a 10 millimeter basically. So I've got to hold it right here and then break it loose right there. But I'm gonna use the same method that I did on the tie rod ends, which is I just broke it loose with the impact, and then that made it come off a lot easier. I just hold this with the wrench and then turn it off with the wrench. So we'll go ahead and do that. Once you get the sway bar linkage disconnected from the shock or the strut, you've got two 13 millimeter bolts, one there, to take out of the sway bar from the subframe, and you've got one on the other side. So you got one on the passenger side and you got one on the driver's side, so 4 bolts total. Go ahead and take those out. Those are 13 millimeter. Once you got the sway bar disconnected, you've got a little bit of flexibility here to kind of push it back and rotate it up. Now, I've seen another video that said you don't have to drop the subframe to get the rack and pinion out, but they were doing it on a old style power steering fluid, not an electronic one. This one has a pretty bulky motor right there that's going to have to clear, and I don't know that it's going to clear any way that I rotate this sway bar. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But once that's disconnected, I think the next bolt that I'm going to go after, disconnecting this heat shield back here. There's like a 10 millimeter bolt back here, holds the heat shield on between the exhaust and the heat shield there and the rack and pinion. There's a bolt there. So we'll try and get that one out. I don't know if you can see it, it's right there. Anyways, we'll work on getting that off and disconnecting all the electrical connectors and go around the other side and see what this connector looks like. I think it's just a ground strap, maybe. Definitely not a ground strap. It looks like some type of connector right there. I don't know exactly what it is. Looks like it bolts on some type of sensor. So there's the bolts right there. So I'll get that disconnected, start removing anything that's gonna cause wiring issue if I start tugging on the rack and pinion. So all the wiring harness and all that stuff's got to come off. Once you get this little heat shield pulled off, you can start disconnecting the electrical harnesses and stuff. I'll just show you what is under here. There it is. Right there. So that electrical wire right there needs to come out. The other one on the back side, I followed that one down. It just runs right along the rack and pinion up on top of it. You can see the shielding right there. That little wire just goes from the electric motor over here to the back of the steering input, where the steering shaft connects. So basically, I'm gonna have to take that bolt out of the steering shaft and disconnect it. But that electrical connector is right on the back side there. So it connects in there and just goes along the steering shaft back to the electric motor. It doesn't really go into a harness into the vehicle, which was odd. So I don't know, maybe I can go ahead and pull it out without disconnecting that. So right there. So I'll go ahead and get 10mm ratchet wrench, loosen that bolt up right there, and then disconnect that steering linkage. Once the steering linkage is out, I'm gonna go ahead and take out these. There's 2 bolts that bolt up into the steering rack. I'll take those out. That one there, that one there. So got those 2. I'll get those taken out the bottom, and then I'll see how loose the rack is. See if I can move it around and start getting it out of there. All right, you can see I disconnected the steering shaft, and I have not dropped the subframe yet, so you can get that disconnected without dropping the subframe. You can kind of see it back there. There's a wiring harness that runs up on the top of the rack and pinion, and I'll go around on the back side and show you a better view of that. All right, I'm not going to be able to get the camera up in there because of the exhaust, but here on the back side, there's the connector that goes into the electric motor, and you can see there's a wiring harness that comes off the side there, and it runs along the top of the rack and pinion up here. Basically, it runs across here, goes over to the other side. It's basically that harness there. I'll come back over this side. That plug right there, and that larger harness going up into the engine. That's basically what it is that runs across there. So I'm just gonna loosen all that up. I'll probably take it off right there, unbolt that, unplug the harness there, and then see what I can do about getting this harness taken off of the rack and pinion. I got most of the little clips loose. Most of the harness is loose right now. I just need to figure out how to get this big connector at the top loose. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go look at the new part and look at the motor and see how that connects up there, because it feels like there might be something on top here to release, but I don't really know. So I need to go look at that, see what the new one looks like. There may be some type of lock or something up there, and I can't see it. I might get a mirror or two to maybe see if I can see what's up there with the mirror, but that's the last piece that I have, this harness to take off, and then I can unbolt it from the bottom here. Unbolt these, and then the rack should be loose. All right, this is how the new one comes. Like I was saying, that one harness looks like it just goes from the steering shaft all the way down and up into the motor, which it does. So I was right on that. Didn't have to disconnect that. This goes into the big harness. So that was the one that I showed needed disconnecting, and then this is the one that I'm trying to figure out how to disconnect. And it looks like there's probably something up here that I need to just press down and slide it out. So I'm gonna grab a small screwdriver or something and head back under the car, and I'll depress whatever is in here and try and get that to come out, slide out, and then should be ready to pull out after that. This is a big chunky motor right here, electronic motor, so I don't know if that's gonna come out without dropping the subframe. Probably not, but I know the ones that run off of the fluid, the old hydraulic power steering rack and pinion, you can pull those out. I've seen a video of somebody pull that out without having to drop the subframe, but I think this is just too bulky. I mean, you're looking at this compared to a couple of fittings and some hoses that go into here. That's a big difference. So we'll see how it goes. Let me get this this connector taken off.
Well, of course, my setup was different. Focus, there you go. You can see I had a little red locking tab. It doesn't have the groove that the new one has on there. So what I did was I took a pick in this mirror here and I pulled that red locking tab out of there. So now I think I can just there's a flashlight almost hit me in the head. Anyways, I think I can push down and pull this out of here now. Hopefully that's all it needs. Hey, there we go. All right, all disconnected. We're gonna go and take the bigger bolts at the bottom now and see if we can't slide this rack out one way or the other.
All right, y'all, I was having trouble getting the mounting bolt loose for the rack, and let me show you why. So up underneath where it mounts, you have a bolt that comes up through the bottom and goes into this right here. So when you loosen it up, this is not supposed to spin, but it does. So while I'm trying to impact the bolt out from the bottom, this is just sitting there spinning. So I had to figure out how to get something on there, and of course there's not much room up there, but let me show you how I ended up doing it. Yeah, I had to break it off the old manual way. So look up in here, maybe you can see it, I don't know. There you go. Here's my 1/2" ratchet there. It's going up in there, and I've got a socket right there on the top. Took a little bit to get it off there, but I ended up breaking it free the manual way. Check this out, y'all. That right there goes to show you that this is a press-in fitting, not a threaded fitting, and it was not supposed to turn on me, but you know, every time I try to do something, it's always Murphy's Law. If it can go wrong, it will. So anyways, now I got to beat this fitting out of my socket, and hopefully the other side doesn't spin on me. Passenger side spun right out like it was supposed to. Easy peasy. Well, let's see if I can get this rack kind of moved around. See if I can get it to slide out. Something tells me it's not going to come out without dropping the subframe, but let me get this camera set up, see if I can get it moving. So I just rotated the sway bar back, moved the mounting plates kind of over this way, ran bungee cord up, hooked it to here to try to get the sway bar out of the way. Looks like maybe I'll have to take that O2 sensor out, maybe, but that's just a big bulky motor, so I'll be really surprised if it comes out this way. But this is the side you're supposed to remove it from, on the passenger side here, so we'll see what happens. Went ahead and put my O2 sensor socket on there, or wrench. We'll see if we can get it broken loose here. I haven't sprayed it with anything yet. This has been a Texas car for the past 10 years, so I'm not really sure where it came from before there, but it's pretty much rust free. But it's exhaust system stuff, so that's always got some rust on it and some corrosion and some stuff that likes to make it stick. So we'll see if I can break this loose. There it goes. I went ahead and took the outer tie rod ends off. I figured it'd be easier to pull this rack through without that trying to catch on something. So I went ahead and measured it, and I did two methods. I measured it and I counted the number of turns to get the tie rod ends off for both sides. Just marked it down over here on my whiteboard. So I guess now I'm going to try and pull this rack out of here.
deal. Shoot. Yeah, I think it's just gonna be too bulky. I'm gonna have to lower this subframe. That sucks. So it's not gonna come out that way. So I'm gonna loosen up the subframe. I gotta take those two bolts out. That's the main bolt for the subframe. And then there's only, I don't know, there's only maybe half an inch between the exhaust and the subframe cross member here. I'll have to find something. I do have a transmission jack, but I don't know where I'm gonna put it. There's an exhaust running right here. So, I mean, I guess I could remove the exhaust, but that's a pain in the ass itself. So, I'm gonna try something, see what we can do. All right, I went ahead and disconnected the exhaust from right here and right there. And it's got some flex pipe on here, which is pretty flexy. So I'm not gonna worry about disconnecting it from the back there, because I think I can get my transmission jack right up under there in that spot right there. And I'll be able to lower it, raise it and lower it with the transmission jack. So I'm hoping that's the new plan anyways. So once I get that raised up, I can start lowering down the subframe. Perfect to me. Except this is a Harbor Freight transmission jack, and nothing that I've ever owned that's hydraulic from Harbor Freight has ever been able to keep its seals together on the inside. Like you don't see any external leaking, but this thing, I guarantee you, it's gonna start leaking down as soon as there's any weight on it. Look at that handle raising back up. Anyways, let me get those bolts loose from the back there, and we'll start lowering it down. All right, here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and drop this down a little bit. That's about as low as it's gonna go without me lowering the transmission jack. I don't want to pull the bolt all the way out yet. I'll just let it dangle by a couple of threads. I'm going to do the same to the other side. Go ahead and lower this transmission jack, see if I can get the rear to come down more. Let's go see how much room we got. Yeah, still, maybe. Let's see if it'll come down. There it is. Okay, so there's the old one down at the bottom. You can see this is where that press-in fitting went that started turning on me. Just need to fish the new one back in. I'm gonna take a break before I do that. I've got almost everything buttoned back up. That's back on there, torqued down. The sway bar linkage is torqued down. I've got the heat shield up over the motor, O2 sensor plugged back in. Everything is torqued down under here. The rack bolts, those were 122 foot-pounds. The rear subframe bolts were 111 foot-pounds. The smaller bolts were 41 foot-pounds. Smaller bolts meaning the brackets for the stabilizer bar, and the smaller bolts on the subframe mount, the rear bolts there. All the harnesses plugged back in. Everything's ready to go. The only thing that I got to put back on is this rock shield, and then you know, the tires, wheels, and I'll be ready to start it back up. I got to plug the battery back in, or I got to hook the battery cable back up. But other than that, about to wrap it up real quick. All right, everyone, I'm back inside the Flex. Got everything back on there, tires on it. Got it back sitting on the ground. So I'm gonna plug in my little scan tool, Amazon scan tool, and turn this thing on and see if the trouble code is there. See if I can delete the trouble code if it's still there, and then go for a test drive. All right, let me get this thing plugged in. All right, you can see it's plugged in. You go to your Wi-Fi settings and find Wi-Fi OBD2. Click on that. Once it connects, you should be able to go ahead and open Dash Command app. It should be connecting. Now it's connected. I need to change the vehicle. Go to 20, nope, not that one either. There we go. 2011 Flex Limited. Menu. Diagnostics. Engine code 0 stored, 0 pending. 5 incomplete. So let's go ahead and turn it on. I need to oil change this thing. I forgot about that. I should have done that while it was on here. No power steering fault code though. I guess once EGR and all that stuff gets going, once it gets in the closed loop, some of these will probably, you know, fall off, or they'll have the green check for completed. Let's see if I can turn the steering wheel. That should be wheel straight. They look pretty straight. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off, go for a test drive. Actually, I'll just leave it on, go for a test drive. I'm gonna stick around the neighborhood. So far, so good. I like this car. It moves pretty good. I'm gonna end up selling it here once everything checks out and I get it detailed. All right, I made it back to the garage. This thing runs smooth, runs straight. The steering wheel is straight. No pulling or anything like that. Sounds good, runs good. I'm gonna call this one a win. Power steering, okay. Thanks for watching Cars and Joshy. Josh out.